Hello, listeners, and welcome to this week's recording of Boomerang. Team 6 is here this week, and we're made up of Heather, Marcy, Jessica, Margaret, Peter, and our engineer, Gordon. The news this week is taken with permission from the West Lothian Courier, dated the 23rd of April 2026. As usual, the news will be broken into 4 parts, and can I remind you that when you have listened to the whole recording, please post your wallet back to us from a post box and not the post office. Before we start, I have some information for you from the committee. Some time ago, the committee identified the need to replace much of our equipment. We wanted to let you know that thanks to the work of our fundraiser, Laura Kearney, she has successfully raised the money we needed. We have been able to replace our 2 computers, which were operating on a system that was 25 years old, the recording desk, the USB copying machine, the USB sticks, the printer, and we also have a new distribution program designed specifically for our needs. We are also replacing your address return labels, as the new distribution program has created new reference numbers for each listener. This investment in our equipment will ensure a continued service to you for the foreseeable future, and we are very grateful to Laura for all her hard work on our behalf. We also have a message from Steve from Team 1. He's a reader in that team, and he is taking part in the marathon this week. So he sent me a wee story to tell you the background to this. 12 years after completing his first London marathon, local actor Stephen Carell, 65, who lives in Deans, will again be pounding the streets of London on the 26th of April 2026 to raise money for the charity Dementia UK. Steve said, "After my mother-in-law, Margaret, who lives in Musselburgh, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I decided to raise cash for the cause that has touched our family and many others." Steve has so far raised over £3,600 and will be joined in London by his wife Sharon and son Alfie, who have supported him through all 8 marathons he's completed since 2014. In addition to acting, Stephen runs courses for would-be driving instructors and is also a volunteer with West Lothian Boomerang. So, in the article that he put out, he asked for anyone who would like to donate to his run. You can donate to him for Dementia UK through his Just Giving page, which is www.justgiving.com/page/Stephen, that's STEPHEN Carell, CORRALL-7. So thanks for that. And we'll now move on to the news. The front page of the Courier this week: corrupt payroll company bosses are behind bars. West Lothian-based company's elaborate VAT fraud as a tax scam puts a tax scam gang, that's not easy to say, behind bars. And the article is by Ross Thompson. The bosses of a corrupt payroll company that stole millions of pounds of VAT have been jailed for more than 22 years. West Lothian-based Linear Services handled payroll for 27 employment agencies but didn't hand over VAT they owed to HM Revenue and Customs during a 2-year fraud. Graham Cullen, Leslie Thompson, Graham Newell and Martin Lang ran the firm that charged VAT on invoices totalling £8.8 million between 2015 and 2017. The court heard the gang lived extravagant lifestyles with huge amounts of money spent on expensive homes, holidays, diamonds, and even gold bullion. There had also been plans for a luxury property development in Bulgaria. Thompson is already serving a 6-year sentence for his role in an elaborate multi-million-pound tax fraud that led to convictions for a network of 20 corrupt company directors. The 63-year-old from Bathgate was jailed in October, while his wife Beverly was handed a 2-year suspended sentence for her role in the elaborate scam. The gang were caught following a lengthy investigation by HMRC's Fraud Investigation Service, who worked alongside partners from Police Scotland's Specialist Crime Division. Lang, 68, pleaded guilty on the 30th of January. Cullen, 54, Thompson, 63, and Newell, 49, were sentenced on April 21st after an 8-week trial at the High Court in Glasgow. Prosecutor Sunindin Corrins of the Crown Office said, "This complex fraud was dismantled thanks to the tenacity, skill and dedication of prosecutors and HMRC investigators. I hope this sends a clear message to anyone involved in tax fraud that regardless of how complex it may be, we have the skills, resources and determination to bring you to justice. The scale of the prison sentences reflects how seriously we view this offending against the UK tax system. Tax fraud is not a victimless crime. It steals money that funds the public services we all rely on in Scotland and the rest of the UK. These 4 individuals have now been brought to justice to account for their crimes. HMRC urges all businesses to carry out meaningful due diligence on any supply of services and anyone with any information about any type of tax fraud and can report it to HMRC on gov.uk. And now over to Marcy.
Mum's shock over daughter's rare diagnosis. An article by Chloe Goodall. A mum is battling to raise awareness after her 5-year-old was diagnosed with a condition so rare medics didn't know what it was. Sophia Grindley from Winchborough, West Lothian, was born with Phelan-McDermid syndrome, PMS, a disorder that occurs where there's a deletion or variation of chromosome 22. Sophia's mum, Jasmine, had a healthy pregnancy and the family didn't realise anything was wrong until the tot started to miss expected milestones with her speech development and her ankles began to roll inwards when she tried to walk. She told Edinburgh Live, "I had a really healthy pregnancy with Sophia and a really perfect birth experience, so there's no trauma there. It's just a genetic abnormality. It's not handed down from us, although it can be in some cases, but neither me nor my husband have an altered gene. It was just something that happened when Sophia was made. She's the only diagnosed case in West Lothian, so it's really, really rare." PMS can present differently, though common symptoms include low muscle tone, absent or severely delayed speech, global development delay and seizures, and some PMS patients also receive an autism diagnosis. Sophia is autistic, non-verbal, has developmental differences and has suffered from 1 seizure. Jasmine continued, "We saw health visitors and speech and language therapists because she seemed to have a bit of language delay, although socially she was really good. She would respond to her name and make eye contact, so the usual things to look out for in terms of autism. She didn't really fit into that bracket. When she was 3, we were referred to community paediatrics and we were fully expecting an autism diagnosis. We were sent for genetic testing just to rule things out. What came back was that she had Phelan-McDermid syndrome. It was a real shock for us. We weren't expecting that at all. She also has an autism diagnosis, which is common alongside the genetic diagnosis, but it was quite a shock. Phelan-McDermid Syndrome Foundation UK say there are just over 400 families in the UK and Ireland that have a relative with PMS. It's so rare that Jasmine discovered even doctors knew little about the disorder. The 34-year-old said, For quite a long time, we felt quite isolated because nobody, not even the paediatrician, gave us the diagnosis, knew all about the condition. I think that having spoken to other parents in the same position, that is a common emotion to feel right when you first get the diagnosis. It was quite a journey, but we were very quickly put in touch with the Phelan-McDermid Syndrome Foundation in the US, which runs fundraisers and raises money. They get families in touch with one another and they raise awareness and they do all the research around possible cures and treatments for syndrome. Sophia's now started school and said her mum and dad, Stephen, are hoping to help her develop her communication and fine motor skills. Jasmine said, even if Sophia was able to develop a non-verbal communication, like pointing or hand leading, that would be life-changing for us. So that's our biggest aim, to get her to be able to tell us how she's feeling or what she wants. That's our sort of target, and it's not unachievable. There are children and adults with PMS that have developed some speech or some method of communication, so that's what we're working towards. As far as we know, this syndrome won't affect her life expectancy. I'm grateful for all the research and the work that the foundation is doing, but it's quite worrying that we don't know much about it. We know as much as we can at this point, but with these rare diseases, it's really hard to get the data to be able to do any research. It's scary, and we just kind of have to take each day as it comes. Often, people compare the experience of a diagnosis like this to grief, and you have to go through those stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, and all these things. I feel like I have been through a lot of those, but they kind of come and go, even still. But most of the time, my focus is on creating a really lovely life for Sophia, helping her achieve as much as she can, keeping her emotionally regulated, safe and happy. That's always what I'm focused on, moving forwards. You can follow Jasmine and Sophia's journey by logging on to https://www.instagram.com/with Jasmine Louise. And over to Jessica.
Raise a Glass to Label 5 sponsor deal, an article by Ross Thompson. Label 5 Scotch Whisky has announced another extension of its sponsorship of Livingston FC, with the popular blended whisky now backing both the first team men's and women's squads for the season ahead. After signing up as kit sponsor of the men's first team back in 2023 and extending the contract for the 2025-26 campaign, the Label 5 logo will now be emblazoned across both Livingston shirts for the 2026-27 season in a show of pride and support for the local club and its vibrant fan community. The deal will include programme and pitch-side advertising, plus a high-profile presence for Label 5 whisky at club bars and hospitality, ensuring fans can enjoy a highball or a dram on match days and at events. The brand is also planning a programme of activation, including bottle giveaways for new season ticket holders, social media, joint promotions within local supermarkets, and support for Livingston's end-of-season awards. Label 5 is one of the world's leading blended Scotch whiskies, selling in over 100 countries around the world. It is produced and bottled just a few miles from Livingston's ground at Glen Turner's Starlaw Distillery in Bathgate, and counts many of its staff as loyal supporters of the club. Commenting on the announcement, Head of Marketing for Label 5 owner LMB UK, Jeanette Deed, said, "We have some very passionate fans amongst the team at Starlaw Distillery, so supporting a cause that means so much to them and to our local community is of huge importance. It's also a great way for us to raise awareness and celebrate our much-loved Scotch whisky Label 5, enjoyed the world over, but proudly produced just a few miles from Livingston FC's ground. We're also very excited to be extending our support to the first team women's squad for the first time this year." Livingston Chief Operating Officer Dave Black said, "We are once again delighted to have the support of everyone at LMB UK for the season ahead, not only with our men's first team, but with our women's first team this year too. We have some exciting plans to work together for the benefit of our supporters in the near future too, driven by the passion of both Glen Turner and the football club to really tap into and support the local community. I must offer a huge thank you to everyone involved at Glen Turner and Label 5 for their commitment to sponsoring the club for another season, but a particularly special mention to Elaine McAdam, whose passion for the club, along with her family, is unrivalled. I am looking forward to continuing to work with everyone involved at Label 5 over the course of yet another season. And to accompany this article, there's a picture of a clever photograph. It's of Label 5 bottle of whiskey, and it's on the ground at Almondvale in front of the stand. But it does make it look as if there's enough in it to give all the supporters a wee dram before or maybe after the match. And over to Margaret.
This article, the heading has started with a play on words. It's What Air Great Scheme at Marina. And it's an article by Ross Thompson. Winchborough Marina will play host to accessible and affordable lessons in paddleboarding and kayaking for children and adults after the developer and house builder in Scotland's fastest growing town teamed together to subsidise active opportunities for the local community. Winchborough Community Development Trust, WCDT, will deliver sessions in Scotland's newest marina, an offshoot of the Union Canal running between Edinburgh and the Falkirk Wheel. After attracting support from Winchborough Developments Limited, who lead the master plan of the growing town, as well as house builders Lovell and the Wheatley Foundation. WCDT has used recent funding to purchase 10 paddleboards as well as train 7 new local instructors to deliver sessions on evenings and weekends from this summer. Since the marina opened, Winchborough Community Development Trust have been working in partnership with Winchborough Developments to promote water sports there, said Lee Lauder of WCDT. Everything comes at a cost, but we have found ways to make it affordable to people through funding and support from developers. The paddleboards are there for the entire community to use, and now we have our own instructors. We will be able to offer lessons at a subsidised rate. We couldn't have done this without the support of Lovell, Wheatley Foundation and continued support from Winchborough Developments. It's a really good example of partnership working for the benefit of young people in our community, bringing confidence to children and important lessons about water safety. John Hamilton, CEO of Winchborough Developments Limited, said, "This is the third year we have supported Winchborough Community Development Trust with the water sports programme, and we are delighted to have house builders contributing to this growing initiative to enable many more young people and families to enjoy the marina and the Union Canal that sits within our community." We would like to thank Lovell and the Wheatley Foundation for supporting the trust, and we were delighted to see Water Safety Scotland attend the launch and speak to young people before they went on the water about the importance of having the knowledge of how to act should they get in trouble. We were very much look forward to seeing a full summer's worth of young people and families enjoying water sports here in Winchborough. Winchborough Marina was dubbed the West Lothian Riviera when it was unveiled in May 2024 before 500 people, including 250 pupils from 4 local schools. The marina, located in Winchborough's emerging new town centre, can accommodate up to 20 narrow boats for tourists and residential berths, with plans for a further 29 moorings along the canal. Tony Rankin of Lovell said, "It's fantastic to see this initiative at Winchborough Marina come to life. At Lovell, we are proud to be working in partnership with Winchborough Developments, Wheatley and the Development Trust to support water sports in the area." It's a great example of what can be achieved when partners come together to invest in their local community. We are delivering around 170 new homes here in Winchborough, and we know families may not have lived so close to water before. That's why support from organisations like Water Safety Scotland is so important in helping people feel confident and safe. Lynn Mitchell, Director of Wheatley Foundation, said, "This partnership allows local families to take part in activities right on their doorstep. By supporting these water sports sessions, the Foundation is helping make it easier for children and young people to get involved and try something new. Emma Dudley of Water Safety Scotland added, "It was great to be invited to Winchborough to give the children a talk on water safety before getting into the water. It seems like Winchborough is very community driven, so it's great the marina will be used by local children for water sports. What we want to do is to ensure that they have knowledge to do that safely." And there's various photographs of children and adults on paddleboards and other types of boats, all looking as if they're having good fun. It looks a bit cold, right enough, but never mind. And over to Peter.
Brian's epic 2,650-mile Pacific Trail adventure. Soldier's fundraising challenge is a tribute to his friends, an article by Ross Thompson. A 47-year-old Army reservist from Livingston is tackling one of the world's toughest long-distance trails to raise vital funds for Combat Stress, the UK's leading charity for veterans' mental health. Sergeant Brian Hughes, a serving member of 6 Scots and a dog walker in his civilian life, is currently attempting to complete the Pacific Crest Trail, a 2,650-mile route that runs from the Mexican border to Canada, crossing deserts, mountain ranges, deep wilderness, and some of the most challenging terrain in North America. Known for its extremes, scorching desert heat, snow-covered alpine passes, unpredictable weather, and months of physical and mental strain, only a small percentage of hikers complete the full trail each year, and Brian has spent years training, testing his kit and researching the route in preparation. Having set off on March the 23rd, Brian is now nearly 500 miles into his challenge. He aims to reach Canada by August the 10th. Not content with simply completing his gruelling nearly 5-month journey, he also plans to take on additional challenges en route, including climbing Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the contiguous United States, and attempting a 24-hour endurance push to see how far he can travel in a single day. Having served for more than 22 years across both the regular army and the reserves, completing operational tours in Northern Ireland, Bosnia, Kosovo, Iraq and Afghanistan, Brian chose to raise money for veterans' mental health, having seen the impact of military trauma and after sadly losing a close friend in the reserves to suicide last year. On his challenge, Brian said, "This is something you can take on lightly." On his challenge, Brian said, "This isn't something you can take on lightly. I've spent years preparing, testing kit, researching the route, and building up experience through long-distance hikes and climbing Scottish Munros. I've completed the West Highland Way and the Tour de Mont Blanc, and all of that has helped me get ready for what lies ahead. I'm an outdoors guy at heart. I love the hills, I love the challenge, and I want to use that passion to help others. Last year, a friend I served with took his own life. That made the decision for me. Combat Stress is there for veterans who are struggling, and I want to do my part to support them. I know that every pound I raise will help combat stress, support veterans who are fighting battles people cannot always see. And if I can help even one of them, then the journey will be worth every gruelling mile." Brian is hoping to raise £2,650, £1 for every mile of the trail. You can support his challenge by logging on to https://events.combatstress.org.uk. He is also documenting the entire journey on his YouTube channel, Outdoor Adventure Time, allowing supporters to follow his progress. Alongside the article, there is a picture of Brian standing on the border of the United States and Mexico. And back to Heather.
And that brings us to the end of part 1. Welcome back to part 2, and we'll start with family announcements. Maria Beardsley, née Felvus, at home on the 14th of April 2026, surrounded by love, Maria, aged 89, beloved wife of the late Herb, dearly loved mother of Caroline and Linda, father-in-law to Gavin and the late Douglas, and cherished gran of Gemma, Ross, Callum and Scott. Funeral service will be held at Blackburn Parish Church on Wednesday the 29th of April 2026 at 12 noon. Thereafter to Loning Hill Cemetery, Uphall at 1:15, to which all family and friends are warmly invited. George Forrest peacefully passed on Sunday the 12th of April 2026 at St John's Hospital. Funeral service will be held at the Co-op Funeral Care Bathgate on Tuesday the 5th of May 2026 at 1 p.m. Thereafter to Boghead Cemetery, to which all are respectfully invited. And now back to the news. Lights out as park marketing campaign fails. Article by Stuart Somerville. There will be no festive lights event in B. Craigs or anywhere else in West Lothian this year. The woods near Linlithgow will stay dark for a second Christmas after a marketing exercise to promote the country parks found no one willing to light up the season. And this week it emerged the council is going to pay around £10,000 to outside consultants in a bid to sell the idea of the parks as your year-round event space. GC Live pulled out of a contract for a festive lights show at B. Craigs last year following a difficult first year of its contract. Council officers launched a market exercise late last year to gauge interest from potential outdoor event operators. Local councillors expressed incredulity, can't say that word folks, and anger at the train of events. It produced ill-tempered exchanges about the lack of costs and missed opportunities to maximise the income. Linlithgow councillor Sally Pattle told the meeting, "I cannot see any figures in this report you are asking us to write a blank cheque. How much is it going to cost?" Scott Hughes, the Strategic Property Asset Manager, said consultancy costs were expected to be around £10,000. He added that officers shared the disappointment that the marketing exercise had produced no firm offers, but bit out that the council has limited experience in the field of outdoor events. A report to councillors detailed, "Council officers are keen to fully explore and exhaust any and all such opportunities, but the council does not have an events or marketing service, and it is recognised that the identification of opportunities and the delivery of commercial activities and events, particularly in a country park setting, is a specialist area." Asked by Councillor Pattle if there would be any Christmas event this year, Mr Hughes said that there had been a plan at the start of the consultation last December, but after the Bathgate firm, which had the contract, had decided to pull out. The need to extend the marketing and engage consultants made it unlikely that any event would be staged this year, he told the meeting. Councillor Pattle branded this a massive wasted opportunity and said, "I thought the last operator pulled out because of the damage done by Storm Ewan. I know how hard the Nets teams worked." Councillor Pauline Orr said there was a very successful operator at B. Craigs between 2019 and 2023 when the council chose to put it out to tender, something I still cannot get my head around. She added that in her experience from working in the Scottish Government, agricultural sector contracts could be extended. Tom Conn, Linlithgow's Labour councillor, suggested it could be reasonable to assume that the storms would add to operators' costs. David Moll, Head of Operational Services, told the meeting, "That's perhaps a valid point, but my reckoning that there have been at least 4 storms in the last 2 years and operators would have to factor the weather into costs." Pauline Stafford, SNP Group Deputy Leader, had earlier been told that 389,000 vehicles had used the country parks in the last year. That prompted comments from Councillor Patel of missed chance to collect parking fees from visitors to boost income. She said, there are some really easy wins here. I brought the Labour administration the suggestion of charging 50p per day if we talk about 1.2 million visitors to our parks in a year. That would have been a very easy win. Councillors heard that plans for a tourism strategy are set to come before committee in June. Councillor Stafford pointed out that the SNP budget 2 years ago had proposed paying staff to develop a tourism strategy. Opposition Group Leader, Councillor Janet Campbell, asked if the cost of hiring an external consultant had been identified in this year's budget. Mr Moll said, not specifically, but added it would be accommodated within the NET's budget for this year as a one-off expenditure which could produce savings in future. Councillor Stafford branded the council's position as one of missed opportunities and pointed to the success of neighbouring Falkirk Council with its tourism strategy. Councillor Conn said, officers now seem to be getting criticised for doing the job they are paid to do. He suggested that the market forces would determine whether operators were prepared to stage events, not council officers. Council Leader Lawrence Fitzpatrick praised the work of officers as an excellent job. He said the cost of an external consultant could be absorbed within the budget. The Executive agreed to proposals that the consultation exercise should not be limited to autumn and winter events, but should include a wider review of commercial opportunities across country parks estates. A report will come back to a future meeting of the Council Executive. And now on to Marcy.
Mum's big concern due to condition of home by Isla's story. West Lothian mum has told of her horror at finding mould and damp in her children's bedrooms less than a year after her ceiling collapsed due to a burst pipe in the attic. Carol Ann Gemmell, 41, says her pleas for help are not being heard after years of disruption caused by the conditions in her Winchborough home. She also has concerns about her family's health. In 2023, they were forced to decant to an alternative council property 5 miles away in Uphull Station after severe problems with damp and mould and parts of the roof missing. It has previously been reported how the family moved back to their home after 2.5 years with their assurances it was safe, only for her teenage son to return home from work a week later to find the ceiling had caved in. Although repairs were carried out, Caroline made a fresh discovery earlier this year which started a new chain of events that distressed her. She told Edinburgh Live, "We found damp patches in my son's room while moving the furniture around, which was a shock. Then he started feeling unwell and I ended up having to take him to hospital on Saturday, where we found out he has pneumonia. It was only after then I spotted black mould on his mattress, which was less than a year old. The slats on his bed were also covered in mould. I'm trying to get a letter from our doctor saying he is unwell with pneumonia and this could be an issue. I can't prove it's directly causing his illness, but we were always ill when we lived here before and were fine when we were decanted. It's horrific and I can't take it anymore." The disturbing find came after damp and condensation was found inside a cupboard in her daughter's bedroom. Despite the council sending a damp specialist, Carol Ann was furious with the result of his inspection. She continued, "He claimed it wasn't as bad as I was making out. I flipped and asked him, 'Are you having a laugh?' He said he could only put thermapaint, anti-mould paint, on it and left a sheet about it. I told him that wasn't acceptable. I didn't want that. I wanted my house fixed. Then I got an email with a report concluding the dampness related to condensation was likely caused by lack of heating and ventilation. It also said the proposed work to apply thermopaint and renew roof insulation had been refused. I had told them my son's room was the worst in the house and it wasn't just this cupboard. They wouldn't listen that it was a completely different room this time and it needs to be addressed instantly. She added there are also cracks in her walls which have reportedly still not been fixed. However, her priority is trying to get her family moved to a suitable property. She said, "I can't deal with this anymore. Why were these issues not fixed in the 3 years I wasn't living here? I'm meant to be on the top of the housing list for special circumstances, but there's been houses I've gone for and just been bypassed. It's disgraceful. They expect my family and I to carry on staying here." A West Lothian council spokesperson said, "We are committed to providing high-quality council homes for all our tenants. We take reports of damp and mould very seriously and investigate every case that is brought to our attention to identify the cause and take appropriate action. We are continuing to engage in dialogue with Ms. Gamble." And over to Jessica.
Hard work adds up to a win for maths talent. 11-year-old takes title at Annual International Olympiad by Ross Thompson. A young maths talent from Winchborough has been named one of the winners in the 9th International Annual Maths Olympiad delivered by the British Youth International College, BYITC. Srinithi Sampath Kumar, aged 11 and who attends Holy Family RC Primary School in Winchborough, was the Level 10 winner. The 8-day online competition, held from 19th to 26th of March, drew thousands of young entrants from around the world, representing a 20% increase year on year, with the winners announced on World Maths Day, which was March the 26th. The challenge was open to students aged 4 to 14 and was free to enter. Srinithi's parents, Sampath and Sasi, said, "We're incredibly proud of our daughter's achievement. Her teacher support and the structured learning at BYITC have helped her excel in mental maths." The Olympiad is based on BYITC's pioneering Abacus Maths programme, requiring students to complete 50 questions within 1 hour, with scoring driven by accuracy and timing. Competitors log into BYITC's secure platform and complete level-appropriate tests under live invigilation. Participants apply abacus, finger and mental arithmetic theory throughout the exam. Top scorers across 11 levels of BYITC's Supermaths training receive certificates and prizes in recognition of their outstanding numerical and problem-solving abilities. Dr. Rashmi Mantri, founder of BYITC, said, "Congratulations to all our remarkable winners. Every child who took part showed commitment, discipline and a real passion for learning. This year's 20% increase in entries shows just how strongly young people across the world are engaging with numeracy, particularly as technology and AI continue to shape their futures." Our Olympiad aligns perfectly with World Maths Day, reminding us that maths is a universal language that connects us all. Youngsters thrive when they are challenged, and competitions like this help develop resilience, problem-solving, skills, focus and confidence, abilities that will benefit them throughout life. We are incredibly proud of the effort and enthusiasm shown by every participant. Glasgow-based BYITC is now the UK's largest provider of abacus maths classes and the creator of the world's first game based on an abacus maths application. And there's a little photograph of Srinithi. I'm not sure she's got her certificate, but it's a very small photograph. She's a pretty girl with long dark hair and smart glasses. It's entitled Smart Kid, and indeed she is a very clever girl. And over to Margaret.
Film Favourites Returning, an article by Ross Thompson. View Cinema in Livingston is bringing a roster of much-loved film favourites back to the big screen this spring as part of a special anniversary season celebrating some of Hollywood's most iconic titles. Returning to the big screen is 80s classic Top Gun. Catch Tom Cruise as a daring young student pilot who learns a few things from a civilian instructor that are not taught in the classroom. Showing from May the 15th, fans can also enjoy a re-release of the sequel Top Gun Maverick for a limited run. A trio of classic female-led comedies will also be returning as part of the season, beginning with everyone's favourite diarist in Bridget Jones's Diary, starring Renée Zellweger in the titular role, which returns for its 25th anniversary. Also celebrating 25 years since its initial release is the ultimate sorority queen turned lawyer caper Legally Blonde, starring Reese Witherspoon, returning May the 22nd. And an epic ensemble cast including Kirsten Wilk, Melissa McCarthy and Rose Byrne in Bridesmaids, returning 15 years after its initial release from June the 5th. The iconic thriller The Silence of the Lambs, featuring Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster in career-defining Oscar-winning roles, returns from April the 24th. Other highlights include the anniversary release of the riotous comedy The Birdcage, the cult fantasy adventure Highlander, and the feel-good family favourite Space Jam. Andrew Dykes, general manager of Vue Livingston, said, "At Vue, we know there's nothing quite like experiencing a great film on the big screen. This anniversary season gives audiences the chance to revisit some of their all-time favourites the way they were meant to be seen, on the big screen, while also introducing those iconic titles to a new generation of film fans. For more information and to book, visit myview.com." And over to Peter.
Disabled Joyce feels trapped in her own flat, an article by Jacob Farr. A West Lothian woman with disabilities has said she feels trapped in a home that is unfit for purpose. Joyce Madden from Blackburn moved into her second-floor flat back in 2007. Around 10 years ago, she was diagnosed with a number of health conditions which make mobility and breathing an issue. The 49-year-old, who lives with a neurological condition that makes her unsteady on her feet, is unable to have a stairlift fitted in her home, leaving her to climb a steep flight of stairs. Joyce also feels she's taking up too much room by living in a 3-bed flat, which could be going to another family in West Lothian. She has been fighting for a new home in either Blackburn, Bathgate, Boghall or Whitburn for the best part of a decade, but to no avail. She claims the situation has left her feeling depressed, and she has accused West Lothian Council of abandoning her. Joyce said, "I hate the house I'm in, but the council have no interest in helping me. I'm disabled with sarcoidosis, COPD, and a neurological condition that makes me lose balance, yet live upstairs. When I requested a move, they said my condition was not severe enough and I was brushed aside. The house cannot fit a stairlift in it either, and the bathroom might as well be a cupboard, it's so small. I ideally need somewhere with a wet room that is on the ground floor. Being in here is making my life extremely difficult. I am depressed in this house. I'm not been difficult. I've said I would move elsewhere in West Lothian, but despite being on the medical list for a swap, I was told there are 2,500 other people in the same position as I am. I broke my foot when falling out of my son's door, and I was trapped in the house for 8 weeks after it because I was so scared of the stairs. I could be out of here and make space for a young family. 3 beds is too much for me and it's costing me more money. As well as having to battle the stairs and a small unfit bathroom, Joyce details how she regularly has to clean mould from her windows, which is problematic with her lung issues. Her ex-partner used to maintain the garage next to her front door, but since he left, it has crumbled into a state of disrepair. She alleges that the council quoted over £2,000 to have the structure demolished and taken away, a price she cannot afford on universal credit. She said, "I feel ignored and let down. I always have to chase them. They show no care, they don't reach out. It's like hitting your head against a brick wall. I'm in a 3-bedroom house and I don't need it, and it is costing me money I cannot afford and a cost of living crisis. They do not maintain the home either. I should not be cleaning mould off my windowsills either with my lungs, but they show no consideration. A shed is crumbling outside my front door and the council charged me over £2,000 to get rid of it. Where am I supposed to get that from? I'm in no condition to be robbing banks. A West Lothian Council spokesperson said, "We can confirm the service is reviewing this case and building services will arrange for an inspection to be carried out and take forward any identified works on the property. While the issues with the shed are noted, the removal or installation of garden structures such as sheds are the responsibility of tenants. The allocations team issued letters to the tenant in order to arrange the annual review of their rehousing application. However, they received no response. We can confirm that the application remains live and the allocations team are available to support the tenant and review their rehousing application." Beside the article, there's a picture of Joyce out at the front door of her flat in Blackburn. And back to Heather.
Supermarket pet plea to shoppers this month. Article by Ian Bunting. Aldi is encouraging shoppers in West Lothian to donate pet food at its in-store community donation points this April to mark National Pet Month. With 86% of pet owners saying the cost of owning a pet has increased, local charities continue to see demand for support, including help with everyday essentials such as pet food. The supermarket is calling on shoppers across West Lothian to support their local communities by donating essential items in stores. Donations will be distributed to local charities and community groups through the supermarket's long-standing partnership with Neighbourly. Since partnering with Neighbourly in 2019, Aldi has donated the equivalent of more than 50 million meals to good causes across the UK, helping ensure surplus food reaches those who need it most while reducing food waste. Luke Emery, National Sustainability Director at Aldi UK, said, "Pets are part of the family, but the cost of living conversation rarely acknowledges them, when in reality increasing costs are putting extra pressure on the whole household budget, including everyday essentials like pet food." By making it simple for customers to donate in-store via our existing partnership with Neighbourly, we hope to support local communities and help ensure families can continue to care for their much-loved pets. Steve Butterworth, CEO at Neighbourly, added, "Demand for support remains high for all daily household essentials. Aldi's continued commitment, alongside the generosity of its customers, plays a vital role in supporting local charities and the communities they serve. West Lothian shoppers can donate pet food and everyday essentials at Aldi's in-store community donations points, where items are distributed to local charities and community groups through its partnership with Neighbourly. Donation points are available in stores nationwide throughout the year, making it easy for customers to support their local communities whenever they shop." And that brings us to the end of part 2. And welcome back to part 3, which includes the quiz. Remember to listen in at the start of part 4 for the answers. So, question 1. How many times has Paula Radcliffe won the London Marathon? A. 3, B. 5, C. 1. Question 2. During which war was the Battle of Inkerman fought? A. Crimean, B. American Civil War, or C. the 100 Years' War? Question 3. In which English county is the seaside town of Cromer? A. Lincolnshire, B. Norfolk, C. Suffolk. Question 4. Who hosts the ITV game show Tipping Point? A. Jeremy Vine, B. Ben Shepherd, or C. Rick Edwards? Question 5. Formed in 1985, which Scottish band took their name from a Steely Dan song? A. Wet, 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 B. Delamitri, or C. Deacon Blue? And question 6. The TV series Orange is the New Black is set in which type of building? A. A prison, B. A restaurant, or C. A school? And now over to Marcy.
Big cat art will help build home for Inca. Painter creates stunning piece to support Five Sisters by Ross Thompson. A self-taught wildlife painter whose confidence was knocked at school is using her international success to help build a new home for a rescued puma at Five Sisters Zoo. Kirsten Murray, 30, from Kirkcaldy, gave up applying for art school after receiving harsh critiques while preparing for school exams in St Andrews. Demoralised, she took an apprenticeship in equine care at a Leven stud farm, only picking up her brushes to paint pet portraits in the evenings after work. But after her large-scale oil paintings of big cats began selling on social media to collectors across America, Canada and Europe, the artist, inspired by fellow Fife painter Jack Vetriano, is now using her talent to support wildlife conservation closer to home. Kirsten has partnered with Five Sisters Zoo in West Lothian to launch Art for Inca, a timed charity print release of the zoo's 10-year-old resident puma, which she has recently completed. Gary Curran, head carnivore keeper at Five Sisters Zoo, said, "We're incredibly grateful to Kirsten for choosing to collaborate with us and support Inca in such a creative way. Having seen firsthand where Inca came from, we're committed to giving her the best possible home here at Five Sisters Zoo. She's an incredible cat with a real character, and she truly deserves this chance." Kirsten's artwork captures Inca beautifully, and we hope it encourages people to get behind the campaign. The funds raised will make a real difference and play an important role in helping us achieve this. Inca arrived at the zoo last October after her previous facility closed, leaving her facing an uncertain future. She is currently housed in a temporary enclosure next to the snow leopard, where staff say she is growing in confidence and showing her playful side. Now, Kirsten is releasing a strictly limited run of prints of her Inca portrait, available for just 4 days from the 1st to the 4th of May. Every penny of profit from the sales will be donated directly to the zoo's Puma Enclosure Fund to help build Inca a permanent, purpose-built home. Kirsten said, "When I heard about Inca's story and how Five Sisters Zoo stepped in when she had nowhere else to go, I knew I wanted to help. I've always been passionate about big cats. They are the main focus of my work, and to be able to use my art to directly fund a better life for a rescued puma right here in Scotland is incredibly special. The prints will only be available to buy for 4 days. Once the window closes, the number sold becomes the final print run, and they won't be available again. I'm hoping my collectors and anyone who loves wildlife will get behind this so we can build Inca the space she deserves." The Art for Inca print release opens on Friday the 1st of May and closes on Monday the 4th. The prints will be available in a range of sizes and prices, including a highly limited run of just 5 hand-embellished large luxury canvases. To register for first access and be notified the moment the prints go live, visit www.kirstenmirrayart.com. And there's a picture of Kirsten standing by a beautiful picture of the 10-year-old puma Inca. And over to Jessica.
10-acre site in town to be put up for sale. A 10-acre site in the heart of Bathgate is to go on the market. But while there's a desperate need for social housing across the county, it's unlikely that many will be built. But while there's a desperate need for social housing across the county, it's unlikely that any will be built offering easy access to shops. The site, a former council depot at Gildea Hall, could prove too expensive to attract housing developers. The cleared site is near Bathgate Railway Station and Tesco on the eastern periphery of Bathgate Town Centre. Following detailed site investigation and feasibility work, and given the cost of work required to remediate the site given its former use, it is not financially viable to use the site for new social residential development, councillors were told in a report to the executive. However, if the land was bought by a private house builder, a proportion of the new development would have to be affordable homes as per planning laws. The existing access to Gildehaw sits south of the roundabout of the same name at the eastern end of Bathgate Town Centre. It lies opposite the Tesco car park on the busy Blackburn Road. The site was previously the council's former Gildehaw depot and has been cleared for several years after the depot moved to Whitehill Service Station. Councillors agreed that the site would be disposed of by advertising it for sale on the open market. Any future income from the sale of this land will go to the council's housing revenue account, which would enable the council to fund future council house building. A report to the executive outlined, if suitable offers are received, a report would be submitted to a future meeting of the council executive for consideration. SNP Group Leader Councillor Janet Campbell asked Scott Hughes, the council's strategic property asset manager, if 2 former sports grounds on the western fringe of the site were in fact common ground, having belonged to the former Lindsay High School and St Mary's Academy, Catholic and non-denominational high schools whose buildings were demolished in the 1990s. Mr Hughes said legal checks proved the site was not common good. And over to Margaret.
Tribute to legendary gig in 70s. There's an article by Ross Thompson. A unique project to celebrate the heritage of Armadale is back in black after receiving a funding boost from the National Loyalty Heritage Fund lottery, which will also help to deliver a concert in tribute to rock legends AC/DC. West Lothian Council has been working alongside the Armadale Community Centre Management Committee on a project to celebrate the local heritage, which includes celebrating the 50th anniversary since rock legends AC/DC played a concert at the community centre back in May 1976. The joint project has recently been awarded nearly £36,000 from the National Lottery Heritage Fund. West Lothian Council and Armadale Community Centre Management Committee are also investing funding. Overall, the project will deliver a wider project to celebrate the local heritage. The committee will hold a tribute concert celebrating the 50th anniversary of AC/DC's concert on May the 2nd. AC/DC played at Armadale in May 1976. At Armadale Community Centre, and the council will provide a series of activities around this event, including artistic workshops. Tickets will cost 50p, the exact same price as the 1976 concert. All proceeds from the concert will be used to support project delivery costs. Tickets will be sold at the door on a first-come, first-served basis, cash only. Doors will open at 6:30 for a 7 p.m. start. The chair of the management committee, Susan Rooney, added, "The management committee is absolutely delighted to bring the AC/DC tribute gig to Armadale, 50 years after AC/DC played in the town. It's going to be a fantastic night and we're really looking forward to it." Emma Peaty, the council's heritage manager, said, "This generous funding award from the National Lottery Heritage Fund is a real endorsement of the role that Armadale played in the story of an internationally famous band and the values of capturing and preserving the stories of ordinary people. This funding application would not have been successful without the support of the community, and we look forward to working with local people to celebrate Armadale's history and to redevelop our local museum." Coincidentally, the Heritage Fund is currently supporting extensive renovations at Leith Theatre, where AC/DC played a legendary show in 1976. They are also supporting Sauchiehall Street Culture and Heritage District, where the classic live album If You Want Blood, You've Got It was recorded in the Apollo Theatre in 1978. And it all started right here in West Lothian, in Armadale Community Centre, May 1976. The National Lottery Heritage Fund is the largest funder for the UK's heritage. Using money raised by National Lottery players, the fund supports projects that connect people and communities to heritage. Heritage can be anything from the past that people value and want to pass on to future generations. The fund believes in the power of heritage to ignite the imagination, offer joy and inspiration, and to build pride in place and connection to the past. Funding is ring-fenced for this heritage project and cannot be used for any other purpose or to fund local services. There's a photograph with a byline that says Rock Heroes. Angus Young, his AC/DC bandmates, played in Armadale back in 1976. I have to say that Angus Young, it looks as if it's a photo that's been taken recently because he's quite a bit older than he was in 1976. So over to Peter.
A vehicle is stolen. It's a short article by Cara Blackhall. West Lothian police have launched an investigation following a housebreaking. The incident took place in the Kettleston Crescent area of Linlithgow around 4:20 a.m. on Thursday, April 16. A property was broken into and keys for 2 cars were taken. The males made off with a blue Volkswagen Golf but left a second car after they were disturbed. The first man is described as around 5'8" of average build, aged 20s to 30s, and was wearing a dark cap and a face covering, a dark jumper with stripes on the arms, and grey jogging bottoms. The second was wearing all dark clothing. Police Constable Mark Kerr said, "Our inquiries suggest the stolen car was subsequently seen in the Bathgate area, and we are asking anyone who has seen this vehicle to get in touch. Anyone who can help is asked to contact Police Scotland on 101, quoting incident number 0396 of Thursday, 16th of April 2026, or make a call anonymously to Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. And over to Heather.
Regulator warning for carer. A West Lothian carer has received a warning from the Scottish Social Services Council, SSSC, after he was found to have accepted a donation from a resident for a charity he was fundraising for without disclosing it to his employers, Adigo Care. The SSSC has found sufficient evidence that on or around February the 20th, 2025, Anil Alexander accepted a bank transfer from a resident in their care while working in Bathgate. Though he claims the service user asked for his bank details to send him the money for a charity that he had posted about on Facebook. 6 days later, Mr. Alexander then texted the supported person to the effect of, "If I get a letter of termination from Adigo Limited with the reason to sack me as not reporting to the office receiving £100 from a service user, AA, which was donated without coercion and done voluntarily, I will do the needful. Maybe I will come to your house for a new job." The social care worker was found to have acted outside the scope of your employment and failed to maintain professional boundaries. The SSSC report stated, "You accepted £100 from AA's bank account to your bank account and failed to inform your employer about it. You accepted that this transaction occurred, although your position is that AA asked for your bank details to send you money for a charity that you had posted about on Facebook, which AA had seen. You did later return the money to AA. Regardless, your actions were outside the scope of your employment and amounted to a blurring of professional boundaries. Your actions placed AA at a risk of harm. Accepting money from AA could have placed them at a risk of financial harm. Social service workers must communicate in a respectful, open, accurate and straightforward way. You sent a message to AA stating that you would turn up at their house if you were dismissed from your employment. At its highest, your actions could be perceived as threatening. Your behaviour also risked emotional and psychological harm to AA. In his favour, the SSSC did highlight that Mr Alexander did fully cooperate with their investigation and did show some insight, regret and apology. However, they felt there was little reassurance that the behaviour had been remedied. The report continued, "You have shown some insight and recognise the impact of your behaviour on AA and the profession. However, your comments show a lack of understanding about the importance of professional boundaries. As a result, Mr Alexander has received a year-long warning on his registration and must undergo training on professional boundaries and decision-making. Adigo Care has been approached for comment, but there's none following." And now back to Marcy.
Council question manifesto. Less than a month after the Scottish Government ministers again snubbed West Lothian's request for £15 million towards a new high school, the SNP has promised to do so in its election manifesto. Now Labour Council leader Lawrence Fitzpatrick has written once more to First Minister John Swinney demanding an explanation. In the letter he calls on Mr Swinney to demonstrate openness and good grace in personally responding to previous mail. When Mr Fitzpatrick wrote to the First Minister in March, he received a response from the Cabinet Secretary for Public Finance. Despite several direct requests to the Scottish Government since 2023 asking for £15 million towards the new school in Blackburn, the Council has been stonewalled. In his response to Councillor Fitzpatrick's initial letter to Mr Swinney at the end of March, the Minister for Public Finance, Ivan McKee, wrote to the Council leader saying, "At present, we are unable to offer additional funding through LEIP for St Kentigern's Academy." In a new letter sent to Mr Swinney on Friday, Councillor Fitzpatrick said, "I would be grateful if you would demonstrate openness and good grace by personally responding to my letter of the 26th of March 2026. I have noted the specific reference to the rebuilding of St Kentigern's on page 58 of your party's manifesto document. As Council leader, I would like to inquire that this specifically means for West Lothian Council, given the significant financial impact RAAC has had on our learning estate." He added, "It is the case that your Cabinet Secretary for Education, Miss Gilruth, gave a clear undertaking to Councillor Andrew Maguire, Education Executive Chair, and I, when she visited the school and met us, that the desperately needed £15 million would be provided. In the absence of that money, we have had to borrow £15 million, annual repayment costs impacting adversely on the school's budget. As stated, follow-up letters to Ms Gilruth have been ignored. The school saw 60% of its original buildings demolished after RAAC roofing panels were discovered 3 years ago. The new school building opened at the start of the new term last week. West Lothian Council had paid £20 million towards the building, but faces having to borrow the extra £15 million needed to foot the £35 million total bill. That would cost the Council £30 million over 20 years. This, in his March letter to the First Minister, Councillor Fitzpatrick highlighted the Scottish Government's pledge to offer £20 million towards the new Opera House in Edinburgh. Mr McKee had responded on March the 30th to highlight that the SNP administration had already invested heavily in new schools in West Lothian through education development programmes. The SNP has been contacted for a response. And over to Jessica.
Lothian locals urged to back shop scheme. The date has been set for the 4th Scotland Loves Local Week, with people across West Lothian being urged to champion choosing local. The people, businesses and initiatives that make communities thrive will be celebrated from June the 13th to the 20th. And as with the activity taking place as the country rallies behind Scotland in the World Cup, this year's theme is Flying the Flag for Local Businesses. Scotland Loves Local Week will see social media campaigning, political visits and other events highlight the transformational difference of choosing local, supporting friends, family and neighbours by getting behind the businesses which are the fabric of communities. Businesses and community groups across West Lothian are being encouraged to take part, as they have done in previous years, celebrating what makes their communities unique. Ideas for how they can do so are available via www.lovelocal.scot. Scotland Loves Local is the drive for people to build stronger, more sustainable futures for their community by supporting the businesses in their area, potentially injecting millions of pounds into regional economies. And to accompany the article, there's a picture of Chris Corey, who is in Lowport Museum in Linlithgow, and he's supporting Scotland Loves Local Week. His music shop is covered with loads of shelves, which are actually full of LPs and other ones in trays nearby him. Anyway, he's holding a plaque which is large, blue and white, heart-shaped, and it's got Scotland Loves Local, and he looks to be quite proud to support this event.
And that brings us to the end of part 3. And now we'll come back to part 4, and we'll start with the answers to the quiz. Question 1. How many times has Paula Radcliffe won the London Marathon? And the answer was A, 3. Question 2. During which war was the Battle of Inkerman fought? And the answer was A, Crimean War. Question 3. In which English county is the seaside town of Cromer? And the answer is B, Norfolk. Question 4. Who hosts the ITV game show Tipping Point? The answer was B, Ben Shepherd. Question 5. Formed in 1985, which Scottish band took their name from the A Steely Dan song? And the answer was C, Deacon Blue. And question 6. The TV series Orange is the New Black is set in which type of building? And the answer was A, a prison. Well done to all of you who got it right. And now over to Margaret.
Council developing Travellers Framework. West Lothian Council has developed a framework to work with travellers on the issue of unauthorised encampments. A cross-party working group is now trying to identify suitable sites which could be used by travellers to avoid the disruption caused by camps last year. But as the group prepares to make final recommendations to the Council next month, it has yet to engage with any traveller groups or representatives councillors heard this week. Answering a question from the SNP's Mary Macaulay about attempts to contact travellers groups, Dr Elaine Cook, the Deputy Chief Executive responsible for corporate operation and housing services, told a meeting of the Council's Corporate Policy and Resources, PDASP, there's been significant effort through COSLA, as well as our own Equalities Officer, our elected members, and in particular Andrew Miller, who was trying very hard to find links to the traveller community. To date, though, there has been no contact to find a way forward. However, we have not stopped trying to do that, and we will continue to try to contact the traveller community as we move on with the process. As regards to identifying negotiated stopping places for the Conservative group leader, Councillor Damien Doran Timson's asked, even if spaces are identified, should the travellers not find themselves there but go to another location, what action can the Council take? Dr Cook said the Safer Neighbourhood Team, SNT, would engage with encampments as they arrived and advise them of the new encampments. How can we negotiate where the stopping places are going to be if we cannot even contact the travellers? Asked Councillor Doreen Timson. Dr. Cook replied, "That's a reasonable question. It may well be the first contact will be with the SNT when they go up to the unauthorised encampment. We have also discussed what kind of communication can take place using the Council's website." Councillor Doreen Timson said it's fair to assume that it won't be a negotiated stopping place at all. It will just be a stopping place identified by the Council. Dr. Cook replied, "It will be land that we have looked at to see if it is appropriate, determined size, etc., and how our services such as bin lorries can access that area. The negotiated part is a term from the Scottish Government." Nicola Hughes from the Safer Neighbourhood team acknowledged the existing processes of asking travellers to move on from unauthorised encampments, followed by a sheriff officer's order backed by police and sheriff officers, would be the resort if the travellers refused to move on from unauthorised sites. Travellers set up camps last year in Bathgate, Livingston, Broxburn and Linlithgow. The council faced a bill running into tens of thousands of pounds to clear the sites, which were left strewn with commercial waste, including asbestos and other building materials, as well as garden refuse. Conservative councillor Angela Dorn-Timson raised a motion last September calling on the council to demand Holyrood speed up the process of councils being legally able to move travellers on. That was defeated by an amendment which called for the council to examine its existing rules, which has resulted in the cross-party working group working with the council departments to see how existing legislation can be used better. The working group has developed its new framework by looking at what other councils already do and is now looking into identifying sites which travellers could use. Councillors acknowledged that key to the success of the plan was contact and proper negotiations with travellers' representatives. Councillors thanked Dr. Cook and council members of the working group for their efforts. Councillor Tom Cohn, who has led the working group, said, "I would just make a very public appeal to the travellers people that we are keen to engage." And over to Peter.
Poynton scoffs at latest health centre pledge. It's an article by Ross Thompson. Livingston MP Gregor Poynton has criticised the SNP's latest manifesto commitment to a new East Calder Medical Centre, saying local people won't be taken for fools again. In its manifesto launched this week, the SNP said it would begin work on a new programme of community health and care centres, including in East Calder and East Livingston. The manifesto states work is already well underway on major capital projects, including replacements for University Hospital Monklands, the Princess Alexandra Eye Pavilion, Belfort Hospital and Barra's St Brendan's Hospital. We will also start work on a new programme of community health and care centres across the country, with the first tranche focused in Port Glasgow, East Calder and East Livingston. Mr Poynton said the pledge comes after years of delays and broken promises to the community. He said it's now 5 years on since Angela Constance and the SNP promised further and faster progress on delivering the much-needed new East Calder Health Centre. And now their manifesto commits to finally starting work on the plans to deliver this. It's frankly unbelievable, and the people of East Calder won't be taken for fools again. No one would be happier than me to see work on the new East Calder Medical Centre finally underway and delivered for local people. I've been holding the SNP's feet to the fire in this issue since my election in 2024 and will continue to do so. After 20 years of failure, we know SNP promises are not worth the paper they are written on. The SNP hasn't delivered on the pledges in their last manifesto, or their 2007 one for that matter. If you want to know what John Swinney and the SNP will really deliver, look at their record. Our NHS is in crisis, schools declining, crime rising, 10,000 children homeless, and roads covered in potholes. East Calder Medical Centre was built to serve approximately 4,500 to 6,000 patients. It is now serving around 16,000 patients, with projections approaching 20,000 as the community grows. Earlier this year, the then Amman Valley MSP, Angela Constance, welcomed new commitments in the Scottish Government budget, alongside the publication of the Infrastructure Investment Plan, which marked a significant step forward for future health services in East Calder. The Infrastructure Investment Plan, published to complement the Scottish Government's budget, specifically named East Calder in the Infrastructure Delivery Pipeline as part of planned new primary and community care and wellbeing centres. Speaking at the time, Ms Constance said, East Calder is a growing community and it needs a health centre that is fit for purpose now and into the future. I am pleased that my representations and the voices of the local community have been heard. And alongside the article is a picture of Gregor Poynton speaking in the Commons. And over to Heather.
OAPs urged to be wary of scams, article by Ian Bunting. Pensioners are being warned to be on high alert for scams as the recovery of winter fuel payments begins this month. Almost 2 million people are expected to repay their winter 2025 payment due to their annual income being more than £35,000 for most, an automatic process. HMRC saw more than 25,000 winter fuel payment scam referrals over the last 12 months and is warning that scammers may now use the recovery process as a hook to use texts, emails and phone calls to target this group. For most, the payment will be recovered through a change to their pay-as-you-earn tax code from this month, April 2026, with no need to contact HMRC. For those in self-assessment who file online, the payment should be pre-populated in their 2025 to 2026 tax return, due by January 31st, 2027. Customers should check and add it manually if it is not shown by October 31st. This applies across the UK, including in Scotland, where the payment is known as the Pension Age Winter Heating Payment, and in Northern Ireland, where payments were made by the Department for Work and Pensions on behalf of the Northern Ireland Executive. In all cases, recovery is handled by HMRC. Myrtle Lloyd, HMRC's Chief Customer Officer, said, "Criminals are great pretenders and often use fake letters, emails, calls and texts to impersonate HMRC and trick people into giving them money. I'd encourage anyone who's unsure to use our online tool at gov.uk to check whether and how their payment will be recovered. There's no need to call us. HMRC will never contact people by text or email to ask them to repay their winter fuel payment or to request details. To find out further information, head to https://government.uk/government/organisations/revenue-customs. And now over to Marcy.
Kiltwalk hike helps Mark step into the future, by Ross Thompson. A West Lothian man is preparing to take on the Glasgow Kiltwalk this month to raise funds for a charity that helped him rebuild his life. Mark Sampson, originally from Livingston, will walk 14.5 miles from Clydebank to Loch Lomond on Saturday, April 25th, as part of Team Venture Trust. Venture Trust are a Scottish charity that support people whose lives have been shaped by trauma, inequality, adverse childhood experience and gender-based violence. These challenges often leave people with poor mental health, low self-esteem and little sense of self-worth. Too often this results in addiction, homelessness and justice involvement, with devastating consequences for individuals, families, and communities. Through outdoor-based personal development programs and therapeutic support, Venture Trust empowered individuals to build confidence, develop resilience, and make positive, lasting changes in their lives. Mark turned to Venture Trust after a difficult period in his life, having experienced addiction, poor mental health, and a sense of isolation following a major lifestyle change. I felt like I'd lost everything and didn't know how to move forward, he said. I was trying to rebuild my life, but I felt completely detached and alone. After first engaging with the charity through peer mentoring, Mark later took part in a 5-day wilderness journey in 2024, an experience he describes as transformative. He said, "It changed the way I interact with people. I learned how to open up, build relationships, and trust others. It was the first time I'd ever shown emotion in front of other men, and it felt like a release. I don't feel as lonely anymore." Mark and others from his group have stayed connected since the journey, continuing to support one another and meet up when they can. Now, a group of them are taking on the Kilt Walk together to give something back. He added, "Before Venture Trust, it felt like we were falling through the cracks. They gave us the support we needed, and I want to make sure others can get that same support." Mark has been training by walking daily with his dog and building up his fitness ahead of the challenge. Donations will support Venture Trust to continue delivering personal development programs and outdoor therapy to people facing some of life's toughest challenges, to help them rebuild their lives, flourish, and contribute as valued members of their community. If you'd like to support Mark and the rest of Team Venture Trust, visit https://www.justgiving.com/campaign/Venture Trust Kilt Walk. And over to Jessica.
Auld Alliance set to return for Choirs Concert, an article by Ross Thompson. Linlithgow's links with France go back as far as Mary Queen of Scots, who was born in the town. And this year, the Linlithgow RFC Male Voice Choir are strengthening their bond by hosting a French choir, Le Chœur de Rougu, from Langong in the Bordeaux region. The French contingent will be visiting Linlithgow to sing in the annual concert planned for the 9th of May, which will be held in St Michael's Parish Church, next to the historic Linlithgow Palace. Linlithgow's choir chairman, Jim Carlin, is delighted to see the choir again. He said, "We have a long connection with the guys from Langong who have been here once before, and we have also visited and sung in Langong. It is a pleasure to host this group, who are also attached to a rugby club, as we in Linlithgow are. Our choir is the only one in Scotland which has a close connection to a rugby club, and we have been in existence now for over 35 years. The Chœur de Rougu is also a group of former players who formed their choir in 1998, firstly for their own enjoyment, and then as it developed and became more successful, for the pleasure of their audiences. This is the choir's second visit to the town, and the Linlithgow Choir have planned an interesting itinerary prior to the concert. The choir's events manager, Chris Thomas, has put together a programme to entertain the group. He said, "Our town has such a historic past that it would be amiss of us if we didn't share it with our guests from France. We're planning to give them a guided tour of the palace. Also, in keeping with our historic region, we hope to take them to see Stirling Castle and our world-famous trio of bridges across the Firth of Forth." The concert itself will be an eclectic mix of classical music interspersed with modern and traditional pieces. The MC for the evening will be Bruce Jimison, who regularly hosts the choir's concerts. Jim Carlin added, "Over the winter months, our musical director, Jim McGugan, has been rehearsing the choir to ensure an excellent event. This year's concert will hopefully show our abilities and versatility with an entertaining choice of songs. We are also planning to perform a few songs alongside our French visitors with some unusual use of both our languages to continue our famous entente cordiale." The Chœur de Rougu is located in a corner of southwestern France in Langong, a town of 8,000 inhabitants, some 40 kilometres from Bordeaux. The ensemble comprises 20 singers, including a musician, and is directed by choir director Jeanne Favre. The profits for the evening will be donated to Chaz, the children's hospice, which has benefited over the years from the choir's generosity. And there's a nice picture of the Linlithgow choir. The men are all wearing kilts and white shirts and a bow tie, and they're standing outside St Michael's Church, where they will welcome their French visitors. And over to Marcy. To Peter, sorry.
Pupils hit the right notes at concert. Article by Ross Thompson. Talented musicians from schools across West Lothian hit all the right notes at the annual Spring Concert Series. Over 200 young people and 24 staff performed to audiences of over 300 people across 2 nights at Inveralmond Community High School in Livingston before the Easter break. The number of West Lothian schools represented increased to 33 this year, with the number of student performers also increasing. Bands performing included the West Lothian Schools Big Band, West Lothian Schools Brass Band, West Lothian Schools Junior and Senior Pipe Bands, West Lothian Schools Concert Band, West Lothian Schools Wind Ensemble, and the West Lothian Schools Junior and Senior String Orchestras. Both shows featured fantastic performances from all our young musicians and lots of really positive feedback from the delighted audience. The finale of each concert was joint performances of all the ensembles performing together, with the brass band, big band and pipe bands performed Carnival de Paris by Dario G on the first night, and the wind ensemble, concert band and string orchestras coming together for Viva la Vida by Coldplay. Rehearsals will begin again in September, and parents and carers of current ensemble members should look out for an email early this term asking them to complete an existing member's registration form for next session. Any instrumental pupils not currently in an area ensemble should talk to their instructor if they are interested in joining one next session. The area ensembles are open to any young person living in West Lothian who plays an instrument to the required standard for the ensemble. Please contact ims@westlothian.gov.uk for more information. And alongside the article, there are several pictures of the various bands performing to the audience. And back to Heather.
And now for some sport. You can bank on Bowling Club's success on Open Day. Members of Bankton Mains Bowling Club marked the club's 35th anniversary year with the launch of its annual Open Day. Club President John Blake gave the opening speech before handing over to long-serving members Joyce and Bill Gorey. Joyce had the honour of throwing the first jack, while Bill threw the first bowl. An afternoon of bowls in the sunshine followed. The weekend fun continued with the club race night, which was well attended. More information on the club is available by logging onto the club's Facebook page. And there's lots of photographs of the club members all gathered for the opening day, and a picture of Joyce throwing the first jack, and a photograph of the green looking very green and beautiful. And now over to Jessica. Sorry. And now over to Marcy.
Bonnie Betsy is very sweet, by a staff reporter. Betsy is an incredibly sweet 13-year-old Ken Terrier crossbreed. She is such a calm girl who loves to be near you. She's currently enjoying all the comforts of home in a foster home, where her foster carers have said, Betsy is a very sweet and all-round amazing dog. Betsy has settled well into the foster care and has been a great house guest. She spends her days enjoying short walks, taking in all the sights and scents. She also likes to potter around in the garden. Once home, she loves to jump up onto the sofa for a well-earned snuggle. Betsy enjoys the quieter side of life, so a quiet home would be her dream abode. She could potentially live with another calm dog with a similar nature. She could also live with upper primary school age children and older. Betsy is very much a people dog and she seeks out affection from her foster carers. So if you are looking for a loving pooch who wants to be by your side, Betsy could be your girl. Dogs Trust currently has hundreds of dogs in its care who are ready to meet someone like you. Dogs Trust West Calder is open to the public 5 days a week and you don't need an appointment to visit. See dogs looking for homes, get advice or apply to adopt. To find out more about all the dogs patiently waiting to be adopted at Dogs Trust West Calder, visit www.dogstrust.org.uk/West Calder. And over to Jessica.
Rose crowned LL champions by Paul Thompson. Linlithgow Rose were celebrating on Saturday after they came from behind to beat Bonnyrigg Rose and claim the Lowland League title on a dramatic final day. Having set up a shot at the title with a huge win over rivals Clydebank the previous week, the gallant new victory at New Dundas Park would see them crowned champions. It didn't all go according to plan though, as they fell behind in 12 minutes to a Neil Martinuk penalty. But Rose rallied in the second half with 2 goals in the space of 4 minutes from James Berry and Craig Smith, turning the game on its head. They saw the game out from there and there were jubilant scenes at full time as they were presented with the trophy. It has since transpired that Rose will now not go forward to the Pyramid playoffs for promotion as they have an insufficient SFA licence. And to accompany this article, there's about 12 pictures showing the players and the fans celebrating this momentous win. One large picture is of all the players and they're now wearing their champions t-shirts and the heading of that one is living it up. And there's other pictures of their fans, one little boy in his football shirt on top of his dad's shoulders having a great time, another one of the manager and the team captain with the trophy which is decorated in red ribbons. And another one of the team captain, he's got, I think, a bottle of champagne in one hand and the trophy in the other. He's looking as if he actually prefers the champagne, but I'm sure they'll all have a brilliant time. Well, they would have had a brilliant time celebrating afterwards. And over to Peter.
Livy face drop at Saints. Livingston kick off their post-split fixtures this weekend and know they could end Saturday's clash away to St Mirren with their relegation to the Championship confirmed. The Lions are 12 points behind nearest rivals Kilmarnock at the bottom of the Premiership table with 5 games to go, but a defeat in Paisley coupled with Kelly winning or drawing at Aberdeen would see Marvin Batley's men officially consigned to the Championship next season. So they will be fighting tooth and nail to avoid that when they return from a fortnight off due to the Scottish Cup. Livingston are still searching for their first win since August and are currently on a run of 33 games in all competitions without tasting victory. During the season, Livy have conceded 24 goals from set plays, with the most recent coming in the 3-2 defeat to Dundee United last time out on April the 11th, and boss Bartley knows that's been costly. He told the club media, set plays are massive in football. I definitely think we've got better in recent times in terms of keeping them out of the back of the net, but it is far too many over the course of the season. It is something we have been well aware of and sometimes teams haven't had to do too much to score. I felt the boys gave an awful lot in the last game and I am gutted for them. They didn't get anything from that game. And back to Heather.
And that brings us to the end of this week's recording. We hope you've enjoyed it. So it's goodbye from the members of Team 6, our engineer Gordon, our readers Jessica, Marcy, Margaret and me, Heather. Until the next time. Sorry. I'll do it again. And Peter. Until the next time, goodbye.